I am Carol Latham, the Community Outreach Coordinator for the MUZEO, Museum, and Cultural Center in Anaheim. And it is our wish that your family and circle of concern are all safe and healthy now and that you stay that way. The MUZEO is a cultural and community hub with a mission to engage the community in exploring and celebrating our diverse heritage, culture, and the arts. And we do this through creative educational programming like this one, events and exhibits. We appreciate you taking your time today to join us. Be sure to add any questions you may have in the chat. You may do that either privately or to everyone, and we'll do our very best to get them answered before the presentation ends. Today's program is being recorded on Facebook Live. Today's program, Why the Census, is sponsored by the Department of US Census Bureau, Orange County, the Orange County US Registrar of Voters, the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Inc., Orange County Alumni Chapter, the MUZEO and Cultural Center, National Council of Negro Women, Orange County Section, the Orange County Links, Orange County Heritage Council, 100 Black Women, Orange County Chapter. The purpose of today's presentation is to give viewers more information about the 2020 census and voter registration to encourage everyone to participate in both of these very important occasions. There are two short questions that we would like you to be aware of. Are you registered to vote? Yes or no? Or no, but I plan to register before the upcoming election. Have you submitted your 2020 census form? Yes or no? And if no, I plan to do so after learning more about how the census helps my community. Joining me on the panel today is Dr. Devera Hurd, who was born in Denver, Colorado, and has been involved in California for over 50 years. She's a member of many community organizations focused on health and welfare of the families in our country. As a retired school administrator, she uses her skills to help develop an educated, active, respective citizenry in Orange County and the country as a whole. Joseph Contreras was born and raised in Southern California and has been involved for 20 years serving the community through faith-based outreaches. He's passionate about the 2020 census because he loves our country, the people who live here, and the unique opportunities we all have to shape our future in this country through being counted every 10 years. And finally, we have Letitia Clark, who's a member of the Orange County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated. She's a co-chair of the chapter's Social Action and Political Awareness Committee. And additionally, she serves as the Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Tustin and as an appointed board member on the Orange County Fire Authority Board, the OC Library Advisory Board, and the Orange County's Emergency Medical Care Committee. August panel today. Now, Dr. Hurd, my understanding of the census is that it is a procedure of systematically acquiring and recording information about the members of any given population. And this term is usually used in connection with a national data collection. Would that be an accurate description or definition?
Yes, Carol, it would. The US Census was actually signed in the Constitution. It's that important. It's Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3. That says every 10 years that there should be a census taken of the population in the United States. And it's exciting that way back then, they even knew that making decisions on data collection was important. The first census was signed and became something that they decided to do March 1st, 1790. And the first census day was August 2nd, 1790, which, do you realize that's 230 years ago? Long time ago. It cost, when they did the first census, $44,000. They did the 13 original states, the districts of Kentucky, Maine, Vermont, and Southwest Territory, which was known as Tennessee then. It only cost that $44,000. But in 2010, it cost $12.9 billion to conduct the census. And Carol, did you know that the original results of the census were to be posted in each town so that people knew what their city was doing, if it was growing, if it was decreasing? And the federal marshals were the ones that were assigned to collect the data. They had specific people that they were to count: free white males that were 16 years and older, free white males that were under 16, free white females on other free persons, and slaves. It wasn't until 1850 that they started counting slaves under their own names. Prior to that, it was under their masters' names. And they collected information about the number of people in the households, their birth date, which a lot of people didn't know their birth dates. There weren't a lot of birth certificates flying around at that point. Their education, their ethnicity, their job titles if they had one. And again, slaves were always counted as being owned by their masters. You were going to say something, Carol?
No, I was just wondering how accurate that would have been in terms of the count at that time.
Well, you know, it wasn't as accurate as it is now with our technology and the level of education that the people that are being counted have, because those that were taking the count were not educated. A lot of them hadn't gone to school. If you look back into the records and look at and you can actually see where they wrote the names of people, they really didn't even know how to spell their names or their professions or where they were born. So you can see the level of accuracy there, but it was better than not having any count at all. And the whole idea was to find out, the reason they wanted to know the 16-year-olds and above males, because they needed to know who they had to get into the military in case they had to have another war, another something that needed to be done. They needed to determine that armed forces, but the main reason for the census was to apportion how many representatives we have in Washington. And that's still one of the main reasons. And that's why it's so important that people participate in the census. We want it accurately represented, our country, our state, every place, our county. We have to make sure that it's accurately represented. It's the building, the infrastructure. At that time, way back in 1790, there were towns popping up everywhere. But then today there was a town, tomorrow there wasn't a town, because people were moving. They were going west, they were going east, south, very little, but going north. So you could know whether to settle there or not, and businesses could know. Now, the monies that come from the federal government for over 100 programs is determined by the number, the count of the census. So if we don't participate in the census and our Orange County is not counted accurately, then millions of dollars might not come to our county. And things such as SNAP, healthcare, near and dear to my heart, senior citizen services, museums being.
Thanks for saying that one.
Yeah, museums.
The arts are so important, yes.
fire departments, lunch programs, all those kinds of things, mental health, everything that can receive that federal assistance. If it's not an accurate count, there are millions of dollars that might not come over the stretch of the next 10 years. So we know that it's important to participate in the census.
Does it also help determine whether businesses move into a particular area or that kind of economic growth?
Absolutely, because I, as a business person, would not want to invest a lot of money into a city that is showing a decline of population. I want to go where that city is growing, and therefore I want to participate in the census. And I know that there are a lot of people that are concerned about being counted and people getting into their personal business. But this information is protected, and it's protected, and I was amazed to find this out, for 75 years. That's how the law is written. They cannot share this information. It's not like they collect information and then send a tally of it to this person and who lives there and who lives. That cannot be done. And if they do so, there's a jail fine, as well as I think it's a $250,000 fine if somebody were to do that. So it's well protected and has been proven to be well protected.
How is that proven?
There have been lawsuits that have gone out, different agencies that tried to sue the Census Bureau to share information, and it was found in the Census Bureau's right not to do so because it legally says that it cannot be done.
That's good to know. And
yes.
How long is this information guarded? What's the period of time?
75 years.
75 years. Okay.
75 years. Yes.
And how did they determine 75 years?
Because that was determined as being the lifetime of an American citizen. And so the thought was, we collect your data, you go through your life, okay, now you've transitioned, and now we can share the information. Okay. So with that, Joseph, do we have you online?
We were having a little technical difficulty earlier.
Hi, Dr.
We
Devera.
so appreciate everybody being patient. We were having some technical difficulty, and that was why we were a little bit late getting started. So we appreciate your patience and forbearance. So Joseph, are you on?
Hi, Carol. This is Bao Nguyen. I'm the team lead for the Orange County Partnership Team.
Oh, okay.
And Joseph is having technical difficulties, so I'm happy to join and present today.
Okay, fantastic. All right.
Great. So Bao, do you have his presentation on your computer?
I have it right here in front of me, if you don't mind starting it. And also, hello, Mayor Pro Tem Clark. Good to see you.
Hey, Val.
Okay. So can we have Bao as a host so that he can share his presentation?
He's already
Actually,
been made
Dr. Devera, I'm sorry. I don't have it loaded up onto the platform. I have it separately where I can view it. Is there a way for you to play it on your end?
No, I don't have it either. I took it off because we thought he was going to play it. So we're going to listen to you talk, Bao.
Okay. Well, you already did such a great job, Dr. Devera. And first of all, the United States Census Bureau is very happy and thrilled to be a part of this event with MUZEO and with your sorority. I do know some other members very in the community, so it's great to see that you're all taking leadership and helping to educate the community. First and foremost, please visit 2020census.gov right now and check it out. If you haven't yet responded, you can probably finish for your entire household by the time I'm done with my presentation. And it's so important. So the key things about the census is that, like Dr. Devera said, it is about power and it is about money. power in terms of representation in that it determines how many seats each state receives in the US House of Representatives, and also how many electoral college votes each state has for the presidential election. And according to NPR this morning, they mentioned that it determines over $1 trillion annually to states for many programs based on population. Some of those programs include Section 8 housing, uh, food stamps, Medicare, Medicaid, funds for schools, for hospitals, for public transportation, for daycare, for urban and rural land use, for fire response, and also for cities to know how to place the number of paramedics in a particular community. So if a lot of folks aren't responding in your neighborhood, your 911 response time may be a lot longer than another area where we have an accurate population. So we certainly don't want anyone to have to wait a long time when they need emergency services. And of course, it also helps businesses determine where to market their products, where to build a new restaurant. Like Dr. DeVera said earlier, how to find out where the workforce will be, right? So that's so key. So all sectors of society, it's really important. And so this year, the unique thing is that everyone is able to self-respond in 4 ways. One, by internet, by going on to 2020census.gov, or respond by phone, or the paper form, which has been mailed out, and some have received an additional paper form recently, most likely last week, or in person with an enumerator coming to your door. And of course, if you want to avoid enumerators coming to your door, please respond online or by phone or return that paper form. You don't need any postage to return that. And so it is so important. This is an all-inclusive event in the United States. We count everyone. There is no citizenship question. This is something that is mandated by the Constitution. And really, it is your constitutional right as a human being in this country to be seen, to be heard, to be counted. You have that right to be counted. And this is the only time once every 10 years to exercise that right to be counted. And it impacts your life and the life of our community for the next 10 years in terms of all those services and the political representation and power that I mentioned earlier. And we are supporting many different languages. So you can respond in English on the internet or by phone, certainly in Spanish, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Russian, Arabic, Tagalog, Polish, French, Haitian Creole, Portuguese, and Japanese. And that should cover most of the population. And we have an additional language guide for other languages as well. So please do respond today. Let me give you the telephone number to respond. That is 844-330-2020. That's a toll-free number. Call 844-330-2020. And you can also respond online, like I said, at 2020census.gov. The questionnaire is only a few questions. It asks you your name, your birth date, your age, your race and ethnicity, and how many people live in the house. It's pretty basic. It should be really simple. My friend, who I encouraged to do it, he said that he submitted something and he thought that that was only the preliminary part. And I said, what did you submit? And he said, I answered these questions. And I said, that's it, you're done. So you don't have to do anything else. So he thought he needed, he thought that was like a pre thing, but that was it. It's really that simple. So just 9 questions. It also asks for your telephone number in case we need to contact you to verify information. But let me emphasize again what Dr. De Vera emphasized earlier is that your answers are protected by Title 13 of the United States Code. That is US law. The census is completely confidential. It's required by law. We do not share your personally identifiable information with anybody. We don't share it with your landlord. We don't share it with the police. We don't share it with the housing authority. We don't share it with anybody, any government agency, anybody, period. It is only shared in a statistical format only. That means we only share the numbers in a report that does not have your name, your birth date, nothing personally identifiable. It is against the law to share your information with anybody. And we all have taken a lifetime oath to protect respondents' information. And if we do violate that oath, it is a $250,000 fine and up to 5 years in prison. And none of us want that. And we take our jobs very seriously. This is about the public trust. And at this time, talking about the public trust, I want to really send my deep appreciation to all of you who are our trusted leaders. I remember presenting to the Tustin City Council, Mayor Pro Tem Clark, thank you for your leadership. Dr. De Vera, Carol Latham, many folks in the community, because it is folks like you who people trust. And we are deeply grateful. I'm happy to share right now that Orange County is at 77. Wait, that's a different city. I think Orange County is 75. I don't have, there's a lot of numbers, but we are up there in our county in terms of counties our size in the state of California. We're in the top 10, and we're also in the top 10 nationally for counties our size as well. So we want to get a complete accurate count though. And we only have a few more days left, September 30th. So please, by all means, let's get everybody counted. Everybody matters, everyone counts. It's really our right to be counted. So please continue to use your influence and your voice as trusted leaders so that we all get counted, because this will impact our future for the next 10 years. And
now I have a couple
yes,
of quick questions.
sure.
One of them is when you're talking about people in the household, you're even including newborns?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Everybody
how,
at that address.
okay. And
So
there are absolutely no questions at all about anyone's citizenship or legality or any of that. No questions
none.
like that. Okay.
None.
So
So
people
let
can
me be,
feel very, very comfortable in giving you
yes,
information.
yes. And
Okay.
let me add to that too, Carol. So if you deliver that message to folks, it's a lot better if I deliver it, right? But let me be very clear that sometimes we understand households differently, or families, right? And you know, that's defined differently by various people. So think of it as the address, everyone at that address. So if someone is sleeping in the garage or there's another family in the garage, please count everybody at that address. And also, if someone is not supposed to be at that address because of a contract with the landlord or with Section 8 housing, we don't share your information with anybody. And let me just share right now, in Orange County, the waiting list for Section 8 housing is over 10 years. 10 years for folks to get Section 8 housing. And the census directly has the number which funds that program. So that program's funding is directly related to the census count. So if we don't get an accurate count, then there's not going to be funding. And we're talking about the next 10 years. If you think about a kid who was just born who needs to be counted, that kid's going to be 10. Or if the kid's 10, that kid is going to be 20 and going to college. And the census also determines Pell Grants and financial aid. So we're talking about every single part of our life that we never think about is determined by the census. So please join with the community and complete the census today.
I have one other quick question, and then we'll have to move on. How are people with disabilities, how are they included in this? Because they have specific needs that need to be met monetarily. So how are their specific needs then part of this program? Or is there a need?
So the census absolutely counts everybody. And we do have the telephone numbers for, I believe it's TTD as well. And we do have outreach, and you can contact Joseph or myself. My number is 657-364-6903. That's 657-364-6903. My name is Bao Nguyen, and I lead the partnership team in Orange County. Everyone is counted. There are many programs, including special ed programs, that are determined by the census count as well. Also programs for children who are students who experience homelessness, such as McKinney-Vento. That is a program that is directly determined by the census count. Many programs. So by all means, please complete your census for your family and your community. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's great to see everybody too.
Thank you, Bao. And
Okay,
I think,
Bao,
Devera, you have a challenge.
I do.
Okay, I'll take your challenge.
But Val, you don't get to go yet. You have one more question.
Okay.
And the question is, do we need to worry about the enumerators that are coming to the doors concerning this COVID-19 situation?
Absolutely not. All the enumerators are wearing personal protective equipment. So they're wearing masks and they're also keeping distance. And if you don't feel safe talking to them, talk to them in person. When you open a door, if you don't feel safe opening up the door, talk to them through a window, or go on to your phone to 2020census.gov and respond right then and there. And if you have any questions for the enumerator, for the Census Bureau rep, ask them. By all means, if you respond online or by phone, we won't have an enumerator out there, but sometimes we might. And very rarely we'll have an enumerator come out to verify the information because we want our statistics to be accurate.
All right. Thank you so much,
Okay,
Val,
thank
for
you.
coming on. And I'm sorry Joseph had technical difficulties, but I guess that's the time, right?
Yeah, it's no problem. We have a great team. I love my team, Orange County. So we're doing great and we support one another.
Great. So everybody that's watching, we're not done yet, but we do have a challenge concerning the census. We want you to try to contact at least 3 people you think might not have participated in the census and ask them to do so. And if they need your help, you now know more than you did before. And you also know why it's so important. So 3 people, that's all we want you to do. Oh, but we want those 3 people to contact 3 people and on and on and on, because we want our count to be accurate. And Val, it's so exciting that Orange County is up there in numbers. So not surprised, but really thrilled that that's the case.
Yes, and there are areas where we still need help with. So there are.
That's an average, right?
Yeah, that's everybody. We're in the 70s, so we've exceeded our 2010 response rate numbers, but we still have a lot to go because a lot of folks are in what we call hard to count communities that have a general distrust of the government, refugees, immigrants, people of color, people with disabilities, veterans, LGBT folks. So we really need help reaching out to everybody, especially the hard to count, because those are the folks who haven't yet responded. And as you know, when folks are reliant upon these social programs that are funded directly by the census, it's so important that they get counted, that everyone gets counted, especially when we're talking about housing, for example. We're in a housing crisis right now.
Yes.
The waiting list is 10 years. I can't You know, it
That's
just breaks my
phenomenal.
heart.
Yeah.
And for policymakers like Mayor Clark, you know, when she is, you know, advocating for our communities, it is so important that, you know, Mayor Clark has the right numbers for our communities, and that she knows that these are how many Black and African American folks that we have in Orange County, so that we can continue to fight, so that she can continue to fight for the community.
And I'm
Very
also
good.
thinking about all the fires across California and having the resources to be able to protect property and people as we're fighting these fires. All of that money comes from being able to provide it through the information gained in the census.
That's absolutely correct, especially if you're in a rural area where you're fire prone. They determine where to build those fire stations based on the census, because really the purpose of firefighting is really to protect people and property.
Very good. Thank you, Val. Mayor Tim Clark, let's have you come on. Our second topic has to do with voter registration. Now, the history of voting is a right as well, but it hasn't been a right for everybody. It's been a hard fought battle. First, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, the amendments, 15, 19, Voters' Right Act of 1964, continued during the Civil War, Reconstruction, Redemption, Jim Crow, people being killed and beaten because they wanted to vote. It has been a very difficult struggle to maintain the right to vote. We want to maintain that by making sure that we register to vote and that we do vote. Just to say you registered is not enough. You need to make sure that you do vote. And of course, you know that we're going to challenge you to help other people get registered to vote. But Mayor Pro Tem Clark is here, and thank you for being so. She's going to present some more information about how to register to vote and some little, you know, most of the people online probably have already registered to vote, but there are some little nuances in there that you might not be aware of. So we're going to have her unmute herself and share with us all she knows about voter registration. Mayor Pro Tem Clark, please.
Well, thank you, Dr. Hurd and Carol, for the platform this afternoon. It's great to be with you all this afternoon. I want to give a plug to Bao as well. As a former mayor, he clearly understands the importance of the census. So I appreciate that we talked about the census before we're talking about voting. Both rights, but both are civic responsibilities in order to really make a difference in our communities. And if we want to see change in our community, we do have to participate in both the census and voting. And luckily we have an opportunity to vote much more often than we do the census, but that only highlights why the census is even that much more important. I'm going to share my screen. Let's start the presentation. Can you all see it on your end? Okay, great. So we're going to talk about some of the changes in voting this year. And luckily, California is one of those states that have transitioned to mail-in ballots. Many of the counties, in particular Orange County, has transitioned. And this was pre-COVID-19. So, but we are lucky that within this pandemic, we have an opportunity to vote safely and easily. And so you do have an opportunity to vote by mail this election cycle. You should be receiving your mail-in ballot by October 5th. So be on the lookout for that. And I'm sure many of you have already started to receive campaign material from different candidates, particularly at the local level. But be on the lookout for your mail-in ballot. You'll also be receiving a voter guide that will give you information about each candidate running, all of the propositions, candidate statements, et cetera. And there should be locations about where you can drop off your ballot and where you can vote as well. If you haven't registered to vote, you should do so by October 19th, and you can go to registertovote.ca.gov to register. It's really easy, and you can do that online. Make sure that your signature matches up with that of the signature on record for your voter registration. So ballots can be kicked out if the signatures aren't the same. And that's how they verify that it was actually you that voted and turned in a ballot. This measure is important with mail-in ballots. So we don't want any fraud happening during this election cycle. There are a lot of rumors that this election cycle will have some controversy. So we just want to make sure that your vote is counted. And one way to do that is to ensure that your signature matches. If you sign your name the same way all the time, that's probably something you don't have to worry about. But if you tend to sign your name in different ways based on the platform, then you might want to double check your signature. And even if you have to change it, you should do so. You can also get voting materials in different languages. And this might be helpful for some people on the call who have families where English isn't their first language. If they need to receive voter information in a different language, you can also get that at voterstatus.sos.ca.gov. I'm wondering if we can put some of these links in the chat as well. Okay, great. So you all probably know that this is a general election. This isn't a primary election. We actually were talking yesterday, just prepping for the meeting about, when political party plays a part in who you can vote for. In a general election, you'll be able to vote for everyone who's on the ballot. It won't matter your party preference or your party designation. So on this ballot will be the president, representatives for Congress, state Senate, and the Assembly, as well as local seats, depending on where you live. So many jurisdictions will have city councils on the ballot, and mayors if you have a separately elected mayor. Propositions will also be on the ballot this go around in this general election, 12 to be specific, and information about the propositions will also be in your voter guide. So make sure you read up on those, do as much research as you can. In most places, you'll be able to find in support or in opposition of what the propositions, not only what they do, but kind of who supports those propositions and their reasons for doing so. Again, you'll get all of this information in your voter guide. And here in this presentation, we mentioned that you don't have to vote for everyone on the ballot in order for your ballot to be counted. However, we're always going to recommend that you go all the way down the ballot, review every position, every candidate, and often local races are left out because the ballot can be so long, and so sometimes voters tend to not vote for their local representation. And we'll review this on September 30th, doing a plug for our follow-up presentation, but it's at the local level that actually has a big hand in what you see in your community, changes in your community. So we encourage you to go all the way down the ballot when voting. So just a list of the proposed laws, the propositions that will be on the ballot. We have Prop 14 that addresses stem cell research. Prop 15, you probably have heard a lot about that. Taxes on commercial property, not to be mistaken with property on housing and residential property. This will well, I shouldn't go into what all the propositions do, but taxes on commercial property. Prop 16 will allow public agencies to consider diversity. Prop 17, voting rights for people who have completed their prison term. Prop 18, voting rights for 17-year-olds. Prop 19, changes in property tax rules. Prop 20, changes to criminal penalties and parole. Prop 21, local governments and rent control. Prop 22, rideshare and delivery drivers. Prop 23 is about kidney and dialysis clinics. Prop 24, changes to consumer privacy laws, and Prop 25, yes or no on getting rid of bail. So those are some really controversial issues that we're going to be addressing this general election. And like I said, you'll probably be seeing information all over the place in opposition and in support of many of these propositions. It's your job to educate yourself. And again, your voter guide will help you on getting up to speed with what all these propositions mean. So the question is, who do I vote for? When you vote, choose candidates who share your values and will help your community thrive. Of course, the voter guide is also going to help you in seeing, number one, who even filed a candidate statement. Sometimes there are candidates that do not file a candidate statement. That should also show you a lot about their seriousness as a candidate on whether or not they file a candidate statement. Most candidates in this day and age have a website, have some kind of social media presence. Once you see what their name is, by and large, you should be able to Google every name and find some information about them. But the candidate statement within the voter guide is going to be your most official presentation to the voter on learning about them. But if it doesn't give you enough information, by all means, do your research to ensure that you're voting for someone who aligns with your priorities and values. And of course, why would you vote? As we mentioned with the census, voting is your civic responsibility to give input about how your city, state, and country operates for the good of all people. We have this opportunity every few years, every 4 years to be exact, in the general election. And if we don't use this time wisely, we will have to basically succumb to whatever decisions are made on our behalf for the next 4 years. This is our opportunity to make our voices heard. It's an opportunity to actually get to know who represents you, remember those names, follow those names after the election to see if they were actually elected, and then follow up with those people, keep in contact with them. Everyone's phone number and email is made public once you're an elected official, and it's their job to remain accessible and accountable to the people. And so, people like me, I take that job very seriously, and many of my colleagues within the public realm take it very seriously. So please hold them accountable and commit to staying in touch after you have given your vote. So ways to vote during this general election. Of course, we mentioned the vote by mail. You can mail your ballot in. We're encouraging you to do that early. So once you've gotten up to speed on who you should vote for, what the propositions are about, please fill out your entire ballot and mail it in as soon as you can. I found that the mail's been working pretty well, but we know that the post offices will be inundated, possibly with ballots. So as soon as you can mail it in. As I mentioned, ballots should be dropping early October. And so use that time to go over your ballot, but mail it in as soon as possible. It must be postmarked by November 3rd. You don't need a stamp. You just have to, once you mark your ballot and you seal it in the envelope that was provided, follow the directions on the ballot to mark your choices. Then you return the ballot by sealing it and then signing and dating the envelope. And again, it has to be in that envelope. It does not need postage, but it must be signed and dated in order to be counted as well. So we mentioned the signature. Again, if you register to vote at the DMV or online, the signature will be the one on your driver's license. So that's a good way to see what your signature looks like as well. And again, if you're uncertain about how you signed your name, you can always re-register with your updated signature. And just one more time, your ballot must be postmarked by November 3rd. And so with there being so many states that are going to vote by mail, we should anticipate that we may not have the final election results in at the end of the night on November 3rd, that we may still be counting ballots for a while because of mail-in ballots, but that's okay because every vote will still be counted. So in addition to mailing in your ballot, you can drop off your ballot in Orange County. There are different drop-off locations throughout the county via drop boxes or actual voting locations. You can find out where these voting locations and drop boxes are by visiting caearlyvoting.sos.ca.gov. If we could put that in the chat as well. We're one of the counties that will have both. And so you've probably already seen them around town. We use these during the primary election. So they haven't gone away. They're permanent structures. And just so you know, the registrar of voters, they come and pick up those ballots every day. So if you're wondering if they're secure and if they'll be picked up, those boxes are very secure, and someone from the registrar's office picks them up daily. And if you just still want to vote in person, if that makes you feel more secure and you like participating in that process, you still have an opportunity to do that. This year, you can vote in person at voting centers, and those will be located at what has been considered convenient locations. So you'll find them near grocery stores, near places where people frequent. Now it's a little different because of COVID, and I'm sure the registrar's office will have to determine what's open for business in terms of what will be convenient voting locations. But that will be your opportunity to do so. And again, you can visit that same website to find where the voting centers are. And additionally, if you need an accessible voting machine or help with voting in different languages, you can visit that site to find out the best voting centers for you as well. So again, visit caearlyvoting.sos.ca.gov to find out all this information. It's pretty much everything you need on that website. Also, if you've missed the registration date, if October 19th comes and goes and you've been so busy with Zoom meetings and just trying to manage during this time, you can still complete the paperwork at a vote center near you to get a provisional ballot to vote. These are counted last, but do go into the numbers of the ballots cast. So, but try to get registered early to ensure that your vote is counted on November 3rd. So there are special rules for 15 counties. We do live in one of the counties that has all of these new measures in place, and we're lucky that many of these were put in place during the primary election. So we kind of got our taste of this. But if you did not vote in the primary election, then this will be your first time experiencing it. Many of the vote centers should open by Saturday, October 31st, some earlier. And then you can start putting your ballot in the drop boxes beginning October 6th. And I mentioned that most of the ballots should be in mailboxes by October 5th. They usually are mailed at least 1 month in advance, so October 3rd, and we should get them in our mailboxes by October 5th. So you can drop them in the drop boxes as early as the next day. So another website I don't think we mentioned was voterschoice.sos.ca.gov as a resource for you all as well. Also, if you made a mistake on your ballot, you can get a new ballot, and you will have to go to the county elections office before election day to make sure that you get a replacement. Additionally, you can track your ballot once you mail in your ballot and or put it in the drop box. You can go to ocvote.com, I think, and it's either .com or .gov. But you can track your ballot. They have a tab where it says track your ballot. All you have to do is put your name in there, and it will tell you whether your vote's been processed and whether it's been counted. So that provides a little solace for you as well, a little comfort, especially if you're going to mail in your ballot or drop your ballot off in one of the drop boxes. So in summary, this year, if you have already registered to vote, you will receive a ballot in the mail. If you wish to use the mail ballot instead of voting in person, fill it out and mail it back early so that it can be postmarked no later than election day. You may also drop it off at any voting location on election day, as late as that day. Orange County may also open secure ballot drop boxes, which we have, starting about a month before election day. And so there are many drop box locations already existing, and you can drop those off as early as October 6th. And whether to vote in person at your voting location or use a vote by mail ballot, it's your choice. And so the point is it's flexible so that you vote. The point is to get more people engaged and more people voting. And so our county has made it as easy as possible for you to do so. Again, if you're wanting to vote in person for the Tuesday, November 3rd elections, the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on that day. But again, you can go to any vote center earlier than that. And again, just remember that caearlyvoting.sos.ca.gov is a great resource for all of this information. I know it's a lot. It's very different than what we've done in past years. But the name of the game is convenience and accessibility. And so just remember that all of this is supposed to make it easier and supposed to give you more choices and more flexibility to vote so that essentially everyone can participate and everyone can be counted. And with that, I think we'll take questions. One more website, findmypollingplace.sos.ca.gov. That should give you information about the vote centers and the ballot boxes as well.
Wow, lots of information. One of the questions that came up was about the mailing of the ballot. Do we need to put a first-class stamp on it in order for it to go, or is that, would it go as bulk made?
So the postage is covered. The only thing, you do have to use the envelope that your ballot comes with, and you must sign it and date it. And that's the only thing that you need, but you can put it right in your mailbox in front of your home, and it will be picked up and it will be delivered to the registrar. And like I said, you can go online to actually track that it was counted, but for all intents and purposes, it should be counted. There shouldn't be any problem. Also, I did forget to make a plug for part 2 of this, where we'll be going more in depth about different positions that will be on the ballot and how they have an impact on your community. So that's September 30th from 12:30 to 2. Same type of venue, Zoom and Facebook Live. And so I'm sure information about how to register will be going out soon.
Wow. So much information and really important information. Devera, did you have any questions that you wanted to ask?
There you go. Yes, I do. One of the questions that was posted was about homeless. How do homeless participate? And what I've read and what I've been told by the voter registrar is that this year, and maybe in the past, I'm not sure, that they could vote by mail and use, because they don't have an address per se, they could use their shelter's address, they could use the street corner's address, they could use the park that they're living in, but something to that effect that would give an address. Is there any more information you have about that, Mayor Pro Tem Clark?
It hasn't changed much outside of, we mentioned earlier that voting is a right. You having a home doesn't take away that right for you to vote. And so, but you do need an address to help you register. We have a shelter here in Tustin. We encourage all the families there to register to vote and to participate. But you're correct. If they do need help in locating what their address should be, then they can try to contact someone from the Register of Voters. But I'm assuming that if there's a homeless family or a homeless person that is trying to register to vote, that there's probably someone there assisting them, just assuming. And so usually that person can assist with giving them some type of address, and they don't have to lie and use someone else's address. Like you said, they can use the park that they're usually where they frequent, or a bus station or something like that. Anything can be used as an address.
So a barrier that's not a real barrier. We'll get over it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Is the registration also available in Braille for someone who is visually impaired?
Good question. I am almost 100% sure that it is. Accessing it is another question. And so again, I just want to make sure. I'm going to go to my OC.
Well, that's the value of our voter centers. There are people that have been trained there in the voter centers that if indeed you have, let's say you need Braille, that you can go there and they are trained to help in that respect. The same thing with hard of hearing or if you're mute, or something to that effect. So all of those kinds of things have come into play previously as a stumbling block, and we want to remove that. And additionally, with the other things that have been on the news and we've been hearing on internet, we want to make sure that all of those are out of the way, such as you have mentioned several times, the stamp. If you want to put a stamp, last voting session, we had to have a stamp, and some ballots were thicker than others, so people didn't know, do I put 2 stamps? Do I put 1 stamp? What do I do? Well, now you don't have to put a stamp, but then that does not make it priority mail. And that's why the suggestion has been that if you want to be sure that your ballot is handled immediately, you put a stamp, it makes it first class, and it absolutely will be handled immediately. But I think that we can trust the post office, that some of the propaganda that's been put out about how horrible the post office is unfortunate. And those that work in our postal system are probably going, ah, but I think they're going to try to do the best possible. So as mentioned, our challenge is to have you register to vote. If your signature has changed, go re-register to vote. Reach out and have people that you think might not have voted or registered to vote, be they in Orange County, in LA County, in Utah, in Detroit, Michigan. We don't care where it is. Reach out to everybody and have them vote. It matters. I'm so saddened when I hear people say, my one vote doesn't count. Absolutely. There have been all kinds of things that haven't gone past because of one vote. So we don't want that one vote not cast. So those of you on the call, thank you for being here. And please go out and make sure that you, after you vote, and you get that sticker that says, I have voted, you wear it proudly as a citizen of the United States that you voted. And we'll see you on September 30th again. So make sure you put that in your calendar. And with that, Carol, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hurd, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Clark and Bo Nguyen. Before we close, let me remind you that on the MUZEO website will be the link where you'll be able to find more information and access some of the various organizations that you would like. Do let us know your thoughts on this program, because we want to continue to provide relevant programs to the community. If you would like to support the MUZEO as well, there is a donate link that you can do so, either on our website, the Instagram, or our Facebook. And your generosity is always appreciated. Special thank you to Berkenda for her work behind the scenes, with no doubt to Joseph, even though he wasn't able to get on, to Bowen, to Mayor Pro Tem Letitia Clark, and of course, Dr. Devera Hurd for assembling this panel for us. I'm sure that our audience appreciated all of the important information that was shared, and the importance of us being counted, as well as registering to vote, and not only registering, but actually voting if you're eligible to do so. An important reminder, you've heard it a couple of times, that on September 30th, we will be providing information on voting, understanding the propositions, and also understanding the job descriptions of the various elected officers. Sometimes we see the title, but we have no idea what their responsibilities are. So there'll be an opportunity for you to learn about that. Please join us then on September the 30th, 12:30. Special thank you to our viewing audience for tuning in this afternoon. There's so many things that you could be doing instead of, signing in on Zoom or on Facebook. So we really appreciate your support for this. And until September 30th, stay safe, stay well, stay healthy, and cool until September 30th. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carol.